Booster. Go. Retro. Go. Vital. We're go flying. Guidance. Guidance, go. Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
I feel the need for speed.
You've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Join us or die.
And welcome to Mark Ruppy Outdoors, the podcast. Good to have you here again. I am Mark Ruppy, your host with you. And as always, we have the millennial Ryer Porter behind the boards. Say hi, Ryer.
Howdy.
You're supposed to say hi, Ryer.
Hi, Ryer.
Anyways, Ryer, while you're here, why don't you tell everybody how they can find us, get a hold of us, follow us?
Well, you can find us all over the interwebs. We have our very own website, or .com, as those premillennial generations might refer to it as, and that is markruppyoutdoors.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram if you just search Mark Ruppy Outdoors. And of course, you can find our YouTube channel where we have all the videos under Mark Ruppy Outdoors.
There we go. Oh, Ryer, did I tell you I finally figured out the problem with you millennials? I figured out your source of problems is your music. Now, of course, you know, growing up in the 70s and in the 80s, of course, I was around good music. Matter of fact, our 70s music was so good. We had a lot of songs that had absolutely no lyrics to, or very, very few lyrics to, like the theme to Rocky. All they said was "Gonna Fly Now."
That's considered lyrics.
Little to no lyrics. Average White Band, Pick Up the Pieces. Chuck Mangione, Feel So Good. Do the Hustle, where they just said "Do the Hustle," and then they went boop 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 boop. I mean, we had so much good music, it needed little to no words, and you're left with millennial music. You can't possibly be held responsible for your lack of judgment, vision, and view for the world. So I forgive you.
Thank you.
Anyways, today we are going to talk about our trip to Colorado and a little bit about my son's trip to X7A in California, and talk about what did and didn't work on our hunting trips, and hopefully that we can remember all that so we can be more successful next year. I keep threatening to do this, so the first thing I have to do for next year that I should have done for this year is make a stinking checklist. Because I left the house without stuff. I started getting 8 million things to do, 8 million things on mine. I have to have a checklist that I can actually put a check by the box. So I need to make up something and be able to cross it out. And from everything from your optics to your maps to your licenses to your contact information to just to everything. So next year, first on the list is making an actual list. So that is one thing that I need to that I need to do. Maybe I'll even laminate it. Can Mark Ruppy Outdoors afford a laminator?
I don't know. I think it would be probably more economical just to take it to Staples.
Okay.
Or Office Depot.
Just make lots of copies of it.
Yeah, and you just place them everywhere in your home.
Okay.
So as you're walking through your halls, you can just see all the things that you need and hopefully not forget anything.
Yeah. And as long as I don't forget and lose the list, that'll be the first problem, is remembering and not losing the list.
Well, hopefully if you have it all over your house, you shouldn't lose all of them.
I shouldn't
make
lose
at
all
least
of them.
50.
Staple one to my forehead. So, we had a long drive. We drew a limited draw unit in Colorado. I think I had 4 points, and it was a long ways across Colorado, kind of heading over towards Colorado Springs. It's ended up being, I think, about probably a 20-hour drive or something like that to where we're camping. So, one thing to keep in mind when you got a mission like that, you're going to need 2 full days. You're going to need a long day of driving and then a pretty decent day of driving and camp setup. So when you're budgeting your time, you have to remember 4 days if you're doing a do-it-yourself thing, and it is truly by yourself. You're setting up and doing everything. You need to budget 4 days of traveling time if you've got, if you're going across multiple states. Now, if you're just hopping over the border to a place, if you've got less than a 9-hour drive or something like that, I suppose you can whack it out in one day. But when you've got you've got the voyage that we took, you better plan on 4 days for your travel. So that's one thing, and that can take a pretty good chunk out of your vacation or the amount of time that you've got budgeted. So be realistic about that. And then, so we got to Colorado, and first off, we had a little house rented, and the guy who we rented it from was real nice, and we actually swapped a little video stuff for staying there. Steve Allard, Puma Hills River Ranch, really great place, and anyways, he was kind enough to point us around, but we hunted the first 4 days. We did morning hunts and evening hunts. We came back to the house each time. We were right in the unit, so we didn't have to travel all that far. But for the first 4 days, call it 8 hunts, we basically tried 8 different spots and really could not find any fresh elk sign, did not hear an elk, did not see an elk. Nothing. So it was a little bit discouraging. You put in for 4 years and gone 4 days now and haven't seen sign of an elk. But our host also gave us some other great locations that once we were done staying in the house where we should definitely go and check. And that's what we did. So anyways, our one thing that even though we were not successful in our first 4 days, what we were successful doing was finding out where we didn't want to be. And we didn't get married to a spot just because that's where we're close to. So success tip 1A on this was picking up and moving. So we moved 20 miles to the north, and to a spot that he recommended to us. And our first morning, we wormed our way up a canyon and found some water and just sat by water till about 9 o'clock in the morning until the wind started changing. And then we started working our way up the hill, and up we went until we're several, maybe 2-3 miles we've traveled from the truck and up on the hill, and made our home for the afternoon, and just sat there and called occasionally, and lo and behold, we had a bunch of elk that tried to move through us when we're having lunch. They hung up a little bit. I think the wind was swirling a bit, but we could hear them off in the distance also, and so it gave us a good game plan for the evening. About 5 o'clock, when the wind turned around and got steady, we started advancing towards where we heard the sound, and pretty soon, before we knew it, we had 3 or 4 elk bugling around us. One thing that was key to this spot was it was in a saddle connecting 2 drainages. So these elk that passed from our side of the drainage to the other side, it saved them. Not that climbing an extra 400 or 500 feet is hard for an elk, but it gave them a real natural pathway from one side of the mountain range to the other. And that was really a hotbed of animals. There was animals back and forth all over that area. And we got some response to our dual game calls, and we got set up. And before we know it, we had this 6-point bull right in our lap. And man, he stopped about 18 yards away, but he was right behind a snag. And I was ready to draw on him. He was staring at us, but couldn't see us, I guess, through that snag, or we were good and motionless. And then as he moved off, he stopped into a spot where I thought I had a good opening, and I launched and I could see my nocturnal all of a sudden just flash and take a 45-degree turn and launched into outer space. And so my arrow was gone and my elk was gone. And that was disappointing because that sucker was right there at 25 yards. And I had him even closer to that, but that's elk hunting. And we had more elk bugling, so we got our stuff together and followed more. And then it just started getting dark on us. And so we shut her down and took the long march back to the camp. And actually that day, that's when we had to go tear down from our old spot, move back to this spot. And so our first evening back again, we didn't hear much going on. We set up, did some calling, and we didn't hear anything. And we sat, and we didn't have a lot of time. We didn't even start scooting up the hill till like 5 o'clock. So we were pushed for time. We had to be done hunting by 7. And so when we decided to shut her down for the evening, I just kind of stood up on my rock and boom, elk blew up just right below us 50 yards. It must have been coming in. It just came in quiet on us. So that was a lesson. And I knew better on that is if you've been calling, you've been sitting there, when you go to stand up, you go to make a move, be looking around because one may have snuck up in there in your shorts and be right there, and you may have an opportunity and not even know it. Kind of same thing. It can happen to you coyote and predator hunting. You do a setup and nothing. You stand up and there goes a coyote that was right in your lap. So that was a little lesson. Darn it, should have paid a little more attention to that. But and back down the hill we went. And the next morning though, we came up to that similar area, and we decided to get way up high. So we, it was about, again, maybe 3 miles up from the truck and 1,000 to 2,000 feet up or something. And it was dead quiet. We didn't hear anything. So we just sat still for, I don't know, probably an hour and a half and just calling every once in a while. And then we heard a faint bugle back down where we came from. So boom, back down the hill we go. Another half mile or so down the hill, getting close. We hear them bugling. Every once in a while we let out a cow call just to see if we could home in on it more. So we're getting close, and we get a couple 100 yards worth, I think it is. And we stop and listen, and we're not hearing anything. We do a cow call, and darn it, way off in the distance, one bugles and nothing from where we thought this our bull was. So I told Ryer, I said, well, let's just sit tight. That bull might be right below us, and just maybe he bedded down, and maybe he's being quiet. Let's not blow into anything right now. Again, let's just hang here a sec. So we sat there and we took off our packs, and actually I took off my release so I could take off my jacket and gloves and everything like that. And I grabbed a handful of trail mix and put it in my mouth and had that about half eaten and blew my call and my cow call. And about 20 seconds after that, man, hear cracking and crunching up on the side of the hill above us. Like, right here, get ready. He getting his camera ready. I'm getting my release on, grabbing my bow, knocking an arrow, and this crashing is getting closer. And all of a sudden I see Brown coming through the trees, and here comes a cow, and she's just screaming her way right at us. And she comes. Now, honestly, I've been hunting now for 6 days or something like that. And we don't have a lot of time left, and I'm probably happy with shooting a cow now, but this cow comes and she does not stop anywhere where we can see. And she just keeps on going. She maybe whizzed by us 15 yards away. Well, then right behind her, here comes a bull. And he comes, and he's coming 100 miles an hour too. And he comes, and I get to full draw, and he comes and he stops, and he stops in the brush. But this is usually the opposite. Usually they stop and they've got a piece of brush over the top of their vitals. This time he stopped in the brush, and the only opening was his vitals. About 25 yards away, came to draw, cut loose with my new Bowtech Rain 7. I got the 7, a little more forgiving for me than the 6. And grizzly stick arrows and samurai heads, about a 650 grain setup. Let that thing go, and I just heard it slurp on through, and that bull wheeled off and took off 100 miles an hour back where he came from. And we just sat quiet. I said, don't move. And we just listened, and all of a sudden you hear that crash that you always hope to hear, and it sounded 100 to 150 yards away. Heard crashing going on, and can be deceiving elk hunting sometimes because elk just crash around when they run off anyways. But this sounded like a crash that wasn't going anywhere. This just sounded like something maybe falling over into the dead trees and stuff. So we sat tight, and I got over shaking, and we did some B-roll footage and everything. And we got up to, after about 45 minutes, and went over, looked for my arrow, and we couldn't find that breezed through that bull, and it took off. I know that arrow still might be traveling. And so we just, we started following on where we knew he went, and there was 2 sets of tracks going that had gone through there lately. And Ryer got on one and I got on the other, and all of a sudden there's our first spot of blood, maybe 30 or so yards from our shot. And well, it's the first blood I saw. There might've been other blood, but, and then the blood just got more and more. It was, for a 2-blade head, there were a pretty good blood trail started up pretty quickly. And pretty soon there's blood drizzled around. Following the tracks was easy. The blood was easy. And we looked up, and there's a dead 6-point bull in front of us. And we were really happy. We've had a frustrating last couple of years bow hunting where we've had vehicle troubles or just unfinished business at home that we had to take care of. And so it was really, I don't want to say relief. I don't know if relief is a good word for shooting a great animal like that. But we're really pleased, and a few years of work finally came to fruition, and we had our bull. And so we got some good footage there of recovery, and got some good pictures that we will repost again. Although, did you know I hate it when people repost their pictures, Ryer? Did you know that?
I think if any of you follow Mark and saw his rant about Flashback Fridays, I apologize, because that was my fault. Because I think I spurred it because I wanted to do a Flashback Friday because I'm a trendy millennial, and I like hashtags. And I proposed to him that we do a Flashback Friday with the elk, and he proceeded to tell me that he hated Flashback Fridays.
I mean, come up with something current, people. I mean, especially some of you people that are in the industry, and you're going to give me your Flashback Friday or your Full Curl Friday or your Wapiti Wednesday from...
I think it's Wapiti.
Wapiti. My people call it Wapiti.
You're not supposed to do that the day after Columbus Day, Mark.
Oh. Indigenous People Wapiti Wednesday. That's what we'll call it. Indigenous People Wapiti Wednesday. Say that fast 5 times. And so anyways, I'm going... Come on, people, come up with something. I'd rather see a picture of your food or your kids or something like that rather than something that you shot 3 years ago. You don't have anything better than that, anything more current. You just got to remind us how great you were 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah, now maybe some of the stuff before the digital age came out. It's kind of cool seeing what people look like with mullets and stuff like that with their animals. But other than that, give me something original. Anyways, we got all our footage, and then and now, because fortunately, when we had to close the distance on this bull, we were actually closing it back towards the truck, so we probably only had a mile and a half or something like that, maybe or something like that from our trucks, and it was all downhill. So we got that baby skinned and quartered and boned and game bagged and we hung her up. And our first load out, we carried, we had all our bows and camera gear and everything that. So we were both already starting out. I was probably starting out with a nearly 30-pound pack, and Ryer's probably starting out with a 40-pound pack because carrying tripods. You didn't have the tripod then. That was nice. That was a good thing.
Yeah, we decided to leave it back because I think we had sat maybe once or twice in a spot waiting. And so the rest of the time we were just hiking up and down hills, and the tripod wasn't really useful in any of the country we're in.
Other than a boat anchor, and since we didn't have a boat or a lake, boat anchors weren't very useful.
Yeah, so I think I elected to not bring the tripod in favor of being a little quicker on my feet and not having so much weight to carry around. So I didn't have it then. Which
was helpful because we did get a bull down. So anyways, Ryer had all his gear and I had all my gear. Plus, you're bringing food, you're bringing water, you're bringing extra clothes because you're getting someplace and sitting, you need to get warm again. And then, you're starting to walk and you need to rip stuff off, and in the Rocky Mountains, always got to have rain gear, always got to be prepared for that. So anyways, I got game bags, I got, butchering stuff, everything. So it's, we got decent packs to start with. So we threw what meat we could into our packs, and the head and antlers over my shoulders, and Ryer, I think he shoved nearly a quarter in to start with, and I think we had it all finished quartering up and everything by, I don't know, noonish or something like that or whatever. And then we got her down the hill and got it back to camp and hung up and aired out and turned around and marched back up the hill and grabbed all the rest of it and came out. And I was appreciative to have you more than even with the camera. I was appreciate to have the millennial strong back, because he sure carried out a good manly portion of the elk there. So that was very helpful. So the two of us did it, and we got it done in 2 trips, and we're pretty darn pleased with ourselves. A do-it-yourself thing, doing it on video, capturing everything that you need to do to get the memories of a hunt, and we did it all. And we certainly got pointed in the right direction by people, and that's always helpful. That can take years of learning curve, out of it. But anyways, we were very happy and very thankful. Said a prayer on the mountain, and really appreciative of the experience that we had, and got kind of half packed up that night, and in the morning the rest away packed up, torn down, and 2 days later we were home. So another thing that worked, we were talking about what works and not work, is elk hunting is just getting up there and not being in a big rush to go anywhere. If you get into the good country, sometimes just sit there and wait, do some calls, wait for an hour or 2 hours. And a lot of times you'll hear something. Maybe you'll hear something that you couldn't hear before. Maybe you're a lot closer to something than you realized. So sitting and waiting and just being patient, waiting for them to betray their presence. That was a big thing that helped us. When we got close to the bull, we had killed. Again, he or a bull, whatever one that we were looking for, had shut up, and again, just getting there and sitting there and waiting and not getting in panic and pushing and blundering into something really led to our success. So we had several times on that hunt where just saying, let's just stop here and wait and listen and not getting in a big hurry. We had 3 times where that paid off. One time when the elk that we didn't see came in on us, and the other time just during lunchtime when it came in. So that was a big key. Another thing this year, a few things. I had a bunch of stuff on my mind. Some of the stuff we'll talk about on a later episode, but being able to get away on a trip with a clear mind. And I've talked about that before, but you like say we got 4 days of just travel, and then however many days, you can create for your hunt. If you don't have a clear mind, if you haven't taken care of your details at home, or you got other issues going on, sometimes those times when you're not seeing anything, they can be really hard and really, dispiriting. I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word? Dispiriting? Anti-spiriting?
I'll look it up.
It's Halloween. We should be able to find some spirit references. Anyways, dispiriting. When you go, like say our first 8 hunts, and you don't hear a peep, see a sign, no fresh crap, no fresh tracks, nothing, and nothing by the water holes, and you're going, what am I doing here? I got so much stuff to do at home, so many things going on. But, here, and, it was just, honestly, there was a couple times ago, just go a little bit farther, do a little bit more. Don't stop, just keep hunting. And that paid off. So be persistent, take care of your stuff at home, try to leave with a clean mind, and that will certainly pay dividends on your hunt. Anything else that was critical to our success or our failure on there?
No, I think you kind of touched on this already, but maybe to make the distinction that the decision to sit and wait more this year was something that you'd consciously decided, because I know we talked about how in years past you really felt like you had to go and make something happen and always be trying something, and always be active, especially given the fact that I'm following you around with the camera.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You feel really self-conscious when you're there and you got a camera over your shoulder and you go, I came all this way and I'm just going to sit here for a while. And you're like, man, I should be doing something. I should be creating something. I should be making something happen. Well, a lot of times you are making something happen by not making anything happen. And so, again, we touched on this already, but yeah, just sitting and being patient and letting them make a mistake rather than you make a mistake, and that was definitely critical to our success. So that kind of wrapped up our hunt there. We had a safe trip home, and then my son just got drawn for a limited draw tag here in California, up in one of the X zones. And we had a friend that kind of pointed me in some right directions up there, because I had not had a chance to scout or look around, knew nothing about this unit. And so we got up there, and our first morning was pretty slow, and we actually met another local, and it was slow for a lot of people. Backtrack. We talked to 4 other groups of people. One guy had shot at one 500 yards away. 3 other groups had not even seen a deer. And I talked to 2 game wardens who had not even checked a deer out. So he'd been driving through everybody's camps and everything, and he had not even seen anyone shoot a deer. So whether it's the moon or whether it's hot or whatever, the deer were not showing themselves. Well, Hudson, my son who drew the tag, and I, that first evening, we on a piece of fish and game property, we went in a couple miles and glassed and looked and didn't see anything. And on our way back, about 2/3 of the way back, we came over a rise, slowly looking, glassing, and lo and behold, right in front of us, I saw a couple deer. I said, Hudson, right there, a couple deer. And he looks and he says, oh, there's 2 big bucks. And I'm looking, I'm going, I don't see 2 big bucks. I just see 2 deer. I can't even tell what they are. I think they're bucks. And so we moved a little bit closer because he wasn't comfortable with the shot, and looked again. He says, oh yeah, that one's broadside. And I'm going, I don't see that thing broadside. I see one that's kind of got his butt to us. And we moved a little more, and shoot, it was even closer than the ones that I was looking at. And they were about 200 yards away, same broadside, but 2 nice big 4-pointers. And anyways, they trotted off and got out of sight. And that would have been fine. My Hudson would have had to lean his gun up over my shoulder and make the shot, and that would have been pushing his comfort zone on making a good clean kill. So he didn't want to take that shot anyway. So I was fine with that. The next morning we went way up on the hill where we thought these things might have bedded, and we sat and waited in one's little saddle for a while, sat there for about an hour and a half. Nothing, moved out onto a point, glassed over onto another little knoll, and we saw some deer moving, and lo and behold, one of those was a pretty nice buck. So it was about a 1,000 or so yards away. So we waited till he bedded down, and then we circled around and made about a mile circle and came up. And we came up in the right spot. That buck jumped up right when we crested the hill and took off. And Hudson got a few shots at him. And originally we thought, possibly could have hit it because he went down and stood under a tree, which I didn't think he was going to do. And then he went and held up into another grove of trees. But we... last time we saw him, he did the typical mule deer bound off, taking nice big jumps, and we traversed the place 3 or 4 times looking for any sign that we might have hit, and could not find anything. So, but unfortunately, we had a day and a half to hunt, and that season is only 2 weeks long, and that's all. Unfortunately, I'm going to be able to get him up there for. So he's going to have tag soup unless the stars line up and somehow I can get him up there another time. But saw a couple bears, so that was kind of cool. One of them was about 50 yards away and didn't give a darn about us. Anyways, so it was a good time to be able to get up there, mostly and spend time with the son, and spend a couple nights in the jumping jack trailer, and waking up and seeing your breath in the morning, and getting out and hiking around and just having a good time together. So that was a good hunt for that reason, and who knows, maybe we'll get a chance to get up there. I got 2 other kids with deer tags just in a regular zone. We'll hopefully get out and chase some there too. We got a couple weeks left for that. So anyways, we've got waterfowl season that's coming upon us, and we should have some great waterfowl hunting. And I was going to try to get back to Connecticut or Kentucky deer hunting this year, but I don't think it's just quite in the budget and the time frame. So we'll stick close to home. Maybe we'll try a bear hunt, and we'll certainly get some waterfowl and other things in. So anyways, so that wraps up some of our elk hunt and our deer hunt for the year. Hope you guys enjoy those little tales, and hopefully maybe some of those tidbits will be helpful for you all when you plan your trip next year. If you got any questions, you can always message us, and we're happy to help anybody however we can. And we're always learning from our mistakes and our victories. And so hopefully we did plenty of learning this year. So, Ryer, again, why don't you remind them one more time, not that they can't see this in print, but finding us where?
Well, you can find us on our website at markgroupieoutdoors.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can see all of Mark's very famous rants about hating Flashback Friday on Mark Groupie Outdoors. And, of course, Instagram is Mark Groupie Outdoors. And if you like this podcast, make sure to share it with a friend, or post it up on your Facebook, or, just tell somebody about it, because it helps us grow. And, the more people we can reach, the more of these we'll be able to do. So,
yeah, and we have at Mark Groupie Outdoors have tried to help a lot of people. We have done, we have just friends that we've met on Facebook. We have provided opportunities for pig hunts. We have done youth hunts. We have done disabled hunts. We have done all kinds of things. So we really like spreading our good fortune, out to others, and providing opportunities, and the more word of this that gets out, really and the more attention that we can draw to ourselves. Not that we're attention hounds, but we really just love doing this. We have a passion for the outdoors. We have a passion for sharing it with people, and so the more this gets out, the more we hope we can. More lives we hope we can touch in a positive way. So Thank you very much for tuning in. And next time we have a special treat from you in these days of racial tensions and immigration tensions and whatnot going on. We have a very special guest that if you were to write a movie script, you couldn't write a better one. This has murder and terror and, like I said, race, immigration, everything into it. It's quite a tale, quite a story that you would definitely be interested in. So, again, thank you for tuning in to Mark Groupie Outdoors. I am Mark Groupie, your host, with Ryer Porter, the millennial behind the keyboards there, and we will see you next time.